Welcome back to my channel, Melanated Gods of Earth, Royal Family. I'm your host, MODISE The High King. And if you're new and you enjoy the vibe, consider smashing the subscribe, let the algorithm know what's good with the thumbs up, let other like-minded souls know that we're out here with the share. And in recent days, we've been touching back on Africa's mineral resources and the developmental potential for our people. Because, Lords have mercy, a recent story right now has me all kinds of upset. For lack of a better phrase, I am pissed off, man. If you happen to catch my previous video about Europe needing Africa's gas and resources to sustain itself in the modern day era, even though we've been saying no, enough is enough, our African leaders head to toe, north to south, east to west, have been standing upright with the posture saying enough is enough, no more exporting our resources to outsiders. And of course, Europeans and outsiders refusing to take this and still coming to Africa and promoting unjust business deals when they know full damn well everything that they have done in the century since slavery and colonialism has been to their benefit and at our expense, exploiting our resources to sustain their own civilizations while our people continue to languish in poverty, conditioned through the slave trade and the colonial subjectification to give master what he wants. But of course, we've been doing what we can to rehabilitate ourselves in that end, and with that end, we've been telling them no. The South African minister must refuse. What? The South African minister says Africans must refuse outsiders and trade together. It was one of the videos that I did one time, and it didn't do so bad, I would say. And in recent days, of course, Africa's gas discovery and how every time we discover something new, outsiders keep coming through to tell us what they want, because they want what they want, regardless of the cost. And we've been talking about the situation in Congo as of late, right? And right now, a story that has me upset, of course, is what's going on here in South Africa. Long way to go for SA mining industry. Atrocities have been going on in terms of economic exploitation. To set the tone for today's video, get your filthy colonial hands off of me. That is the tone, because enough is enough of neo-colonial exploitation, and we need to focus our resources on our people, because damn, y'all, parasites just will not quit.
So over 500 mine workers, or some 500 mine workers at MODISE operations in Springs this week staged a risky protest underground. The workers, who have all since resurfaced, say they barely make enough to survive. Some detailed how they have been overlooked for higher senior positions. We're now joined by senior researcher at Benchmark Foundation, David van Wyk, to talk to us about the conditions faced by mine workers in present-day South Africa. Mr. van Wyk, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Perhaps it's worth revisiting the moments when some of the workers resurfaced to ground and they spoke about the reasons why they would stage such a risky protest. Let's take a look, listen.
Keep in mind, South Africa has been protesting against unfair wages, and we've been struggling with our colonizers since the end of apartheid to regain control of our land, our resources, and they've been holding on to it in the iron grip. I've been preaching this like a canary on this channel for the longest time. And I'm going to keep going until people understand. Without Africa's resources, the world cannot thrive, cannot survive. Without our resources, there's no such thing as modern day technology. No cobalt, no coltan out of the Congo, out of other African countries. No technology in the West as you know it. No rocket ships, no nothing.
Since 2016, yeah, I'm 7 years old one. Bogoma 6 point something. Namanzi akakafiki ku 10,000. So like we're about a little in 7-8 years in 7 and when one. And since matric,
so since 2016, he's been earning about 6,000 rand and only to now has it grown up to 10K. In what? How many years?
In 7-8 years, in 7.
In 7-8 years. He's only received 4,000 rand in a raise.
Since matric, ngithathile license, angina certificate, angina niks. Even now, angikhona ukuthi ngale mali bangipha yona.
Since he graduated high school.
Ngiyenza N1 inyane site ni, yabona into efana nalezo. Ngifika nokuyenza security 1.5. Because yonke le mali nginike already, nginike incosi, kumele ngidle, kumele ngigeze yabo.
David van Wyk, this gentleman is relaying how since 2016, having been employed by this mine, he's earned 6,000 rand or some 6,000 rand. Since matric, he's been working for them. He cannot even do a course at school to further his career or develop himself. He has to take care of not only himself but others as well in terms of his family with this meager salary. What does this tell us about not only some of the conditions but the way mines operate in present-day South Africa?
Majority white-owned mines, and they've been engaged in colonial practice, neo-colonial practices of extraction and paying people slave wages. So when people say South Africa is the most unequal country in the world, that's what they mean. When they say that we are under an economic apartheid, that's what they mean. Because as much as black people got the right to vote, what we never got back was our land, our resources. And this gentleman is about to explain fundamentally how it all functions. And yeah.
Well,
what people who are truly sorry about apartheid do is that they don't hesitate to tell the truth about how white supremacy functions. So how else can we fix it? How else can we win over it if we don't know what we're fighting? Devil beasts, a lot of them.
I think that gold mines especially have lagged behind platinum mines and other mines in the country. But if we compare the income and living conditions and working conditions of South African mine workers with Australian mine workers,
listen,
an Australian mine worker gets on average 1.5 million South African rands per annum. South African mine workers, including this gentleman, probably doesn't even clear 100,000 rands per annum.
1.5 million per annum. Let's do the math real quick. The gentleman said he earns about 6,000 times 12 months, 72,000 rand annually to pay for his family and everything in between, right? But on average, the Australian mine worker earns about 1.5 million per annum. Divide that by 12, he earns 125,000 South African rands a month. So South African people earn 6 to 10K a month, whereas Australian mine workers earn 125,000 a month.
I think that is shocking, given that the Australian mining revolution started at the same time as the South African mining revolution. There's one difference, however. Australian mine workers are actually white and South African mine workers are African and black.
Truth to power. Right there. When the white man tells you the truth, believe it. Because he knows how his systems work. He knows how the neo-colonial systems of exploitation function.
There is mine workers are actually white and South African mine. There's one difference, however. Australian mine workers are actually white and South African mine workers are African and black.
Australia being a colonized
division
land.
Of labor in the world, because South African CEOs earn equal to their global counterparts, and yet mine workers don't. They don't earn equal to their Australian counterparts. And working.
So our mine owners, which are majority white, earn the same salaries as every CEO mine worker on earth, but our workers who are black earn ridiculously less, a slave's wage, in comparison to other mine workers who are white all over the world. And again, Australia being a colonized land. America being a colonized land. That's insane.
Working in a South African mine is far more difficult and far more dangerous than working in an Australian mine. Australian truck drivers, also clear R1 million a year, and they drive exactly the same trucks as South African truck drivers do. So you can't say that those drivers are more skilled or that those mine workers are more skilled. Given the dangerous condition of ultra-deep level mines in South Africa, South African mine workers are actually far more skilled than Australian mine workers. So that argument simply does not hold.
Our mine workers are more skilled and harder working than Australian mines. So the mediocre nature of our beloved colonizers, and they overpay themselves. But the hardworking, diligent, innovative black man and woman is paid a slave wage. And they say apartheid is over. Where? Show me where apartheid is over. Because we're still being exploited. As you're about to find out, by international corporate conglomerates who reside in London, who reside in Europe, who look to Africa's resources as their bottom line, as part of their portfolio, as our president has said in other videos that I've covered before, and as well as every other African leader as of late has been saying, all the way to the UN. Every speech at every summit, they've been saying more or less the same thing, that enough is enough.
As for the cost of living argument that says, it's much more expensive to live in Australia than South Africa, that's pure nonsense, We are paying global prices for food in this country, and those prices are determined, for example, by the grain exchange in Chicago and so on. And yet we are earning South African salaries and wages, as our mine workers do. And, it's on the back of gold that South Africa was built, the infrastructure and so on that is here. But we see a degradation of work taking place in this country through labor brokering, subcontracting, union busting, and basically abusing people's labor rights in terms of the Labor Relations Act and their rights to belong to the unions of their choice.
If we trace it, where does it start and where does it end? I guess in particular, when you take a look at, I'm not even sure what the phrase is for this, right? So if David van Wyk comes to Lesotho and he wants to open up a gold mine, the government of Lesotho, maybe let's use Botswana, because the government of Botswana, more so recently, the deal that they restructured for the country, which works for the country. Where does it start and where does it begin? So you go to Botswana and you say you want to operate in this space. The government of Botswana says these are the terms and conditions, and if you're not happy, you can pack your bags and go. And so where does it start and end in South Africa? Who is meant to protect these workers? Because we can't even put unions in the picture.
I think that in the South African context, we're very unfortunate that we've inherited a mining industry that we've inherited from colonialism and apartheid. In 1965, when Botswana...
And that's the crux of it all, family. That's the topic of today's video. We've inherited structures and systems from the colonial era, entrenched through the apartheid regime, and generationally cursed, to which we are now dealing with said curse today. This is what it means to share a country with colonizers, family. This is what it means to be a former colony. Because never mind South Africa, as we see now, we've been covering lately with the situation in Congo, how that has formed from a colonial system to a reality whereby every international tech company has a vested interest in maintaining the chaos in that region, funding these these militia groups to go in there and commit atrocities so they can keep the country broken and desperate, and for outsiders to just crawl in and do as they see fit. And they've been going at it from Japan to China to Europe to America, Australia. Everybody's been in there.
Became independent. They immediately took control of 51% of the diamond mining industry in that country. And with that, they have funded free education, they've sent children to school all over the world, and they've generally tried to use the resources that came out of mining for the benefit of their population. In Norway, they created a sovereign fund after they nationalized the oil industry in the 1950s, and they are now the country with the highest standard of living in the world because they used that sovereign fund to invest all over the world and then to bring that back to benefits for people in Norway itself. Now, within the South African context, we don't own our mines. Our mines are owned by global multinational corporations. And although we've got
boom, Anglo America, which controls the gold and the platinum and other things, De Beers Group, which are based predominantly in London, and I think Norway, Netherlands, who control the diamond sector, among other things. French Total. We covered yesterday with the discovery of our gas. They've been out there trying to get in on that. So we need to clamp down on our resources, family. Like the fictional Wakandans, we need to clamp down on that.
8% of the world's platinum and platinum group metals, and we can easily establish a monopoly. We did not do that, and so we don't really get the benefits. And the companies that do mine the platinum evade taxes, they avoid taxes, so the government is not even getting the revenue that it's supposed to be getting.
So they intentionally use international systems to avoid paying taxes, to avoid paying a fair price for our resources, and they take advantage of the fact that we're a post-apartheid, post-colonial society, and we're still crawling through the dark to find our way through as black peoples, and they have no interest in helping us find our way through because their interests reside in their ability to exploit us at an abusive level at this point. Beyond abusive level. This is just neocolonialism. See? I'm not just keep saying that word because I'm obsessed or loony or whatever. No. Real facts, real receipts, as this white man has just expressed. We're in a struggle. We're in a struggle.
If we look at 1994, corporations in South Africa paid 49% corporate tax. Today they pay 21% corporate tax.
What?
And guess what? We, the ordinary wage earners, we now pay 49% pay as you earn. Add to that, the sales tax and everything else that we pay tax on. So we've reversed the situation. We've made the situation very favorable for mining investment in terms of tax revenue and so on, and very bad for mine workers and ordinary people in this country. We actually subsidize this particular industry. Then, of course, it's a shrinking industry because mining is not sustainable and it's not renewable. We should have used our resources when mining was at its peak to actually develop this country an economy beyond mining, because mining can't go on forever. Minerals come to an end. What then?
Exactly. And hence, I've been saying we need to clamp down on our mineral resources, like the fictional Wakandans, who were ruthless to that end, made it a center of their culture. They knew from vibranium they could build an entire empire. We need to clamp down on our resources because we know that the world relies on them. The tech industry, everything. So we clamp down on the mining to benefit black peoples and the indigenous peoples. We clamp down on the processing so we can establish industry, hire people, give people jobs. We clamp down on the manufacturing. We can process and turn them into technologies. Our own Apple iPhones, our own electric vehicles, our own rocket ships, our own everything. And retail. So we can trade among ourselves, majority, on our continent. Before we have to even deal with outsiders. And we're going to keep covering this topic because that's what matters. We make our resources the center of our culture and our heritage so that we can maintain a closed loop system that can benefit the people and in the process keep the land safe. Because outsiders will mine and exploit in a way that they don't have to take care of the land because they don't have to live here. They will dump toxins everywhere. They will leave damaged land, destroyed forests. Irritating. royal family. Very irritating, but we do what we can where we can. And that's why they've been getting booted out of African countries, because they were doing the same thing in Niger, paying peanuts for Niger's uranium. Russia to build nuclear power plant in Burkina Faso. We're getting booted out of the West African countries. And it's time here in Africa, or in South Africa, we do the same thing. Because they mustn't act like we don't see what they're doing. Because they've gotten so arrogant, people, that the people in our country can protest for a salary increase, and they will adamantly say that they don't have to do anything because they're rich enough to wait for our economy to struggle so hard, for our people to suffer so much, that we will have no choice but to accept our slave wages and get back to work, because they've been exploiting us for so damn long. So between harnessing our resources and demanding fair wages, we need to go after these people in terms of the law, as far as the law can. Clamp down on what they have exploited, confiscate their funds, force reparations, because damn them.
Russia is going to be building a nuclear power plant in Burkina Faso. This comes after the conversation that Ibrahim Traore, the leader of Burkina Faso, had with Putin during the African-Russia summit. He verbatim asked for help for nuclear power.
It's not quite clear to me how come that Africa, that has so many resources, water, solar energy, how come that currently it is the poorest continent in the world with the highest levels of famine? How come that we have to ask for help? We ask ourselves, but we don't get any answers. We have a chance to build new relationship. Hopefully, this relationship will be for the better to us in order to build a better future for our country.
Because the international community has a vested interest in a broken Africa and cheap resources. And that's what it means for Africa to be the youngest population on the planet. Because the young are not afraid where the old have gotten too comfortable. And whatever we must do to emancipate ourselves, we will. If we have to raise arms supported by the UN Charter 242, we will. Because this is insane. We must live with this poverty when we're so blessed? No, family. So say what you will about gas, say what you will about uranium and nuclear energy. Say what you want. Science says we've come far enough in these technologies to reduce the carbon emissions, to deal with the nuclear waste products, because the technologies have become miniaturized and more efficient. So we can focus ourselves more on development and beneficiation of our resources to solve our problems. Feed our people. Turn on the lights.
On behalf of my generation, I would like to say that due to poverty, many had to cross oceans in quest for a better life. At times they die, at times they starve. It's hard for them to survive. As for Burkina Faso, it's been 8 years since we have been facing the most barbaric and violent form of colonialism, barbarism. We are imposed this modern form of slavery. We were taught one thing: a slave that cannot rebel does not deserve pity. Leaders of African states should not be puppets when imperialists treat them like that.
And they recently signed a deal for Russia to help Burkina Faso in building the nuclear plant. And this is huge for the country because only 21% of the population gets electricity. You can imagine majority of the people not getting electricity, what it means for the development of the country, for even the way of life. It is going to impact you tremendously if you're not connected to electricity. So this is going to help Burkina Faso tremendously. And this is not the first Russia project when it comes to building a nuclear power plant in an African country. They signed a deal with Egypt. The Russians are also working with Nigeria to build power plants. So this is not just between Burkina Faso and Russia, but a lot of African countries are interested in building their own nuclear power plants. Although at the moment, I believe it's just South Africa that has a nuclear power plant. And it's sad to see, honestly. Yes, this is a great step forward in order to help African nations to be sustainable, to stand on our own 2 feet, right? But at the end of the day, when you look back and see how African countries are like the least when it comes to providing electricity, water to their people, but then again, they are selling and sending off the same materials to outside nations like European countries, where they are supporting the other countries, right? But our
So European countries will tell us to abandon our coal, abandon our gas, abandon our uranium, avoid building nuclear power plants because it's dirty, so on and so forth. But in a blink of an eye, they buy our coal in truckloads. They want instant pipelines that run from country through country, all the way to Europe, from Nigeria through Niger to Algeria, all the way into Europe. Extracting our uranium out of Niger into Europe, into America. That's crazy to me. That's a scam right there. And then we must buy what? Power systems that were made in Europe, made in the West. Solar panels made in the West. Wind turbines made in the West. Battery technology processed and manufactured in the West, all using our resources. That's the trick of the devil. That's the trick of the devil, family. So we ignore what Europeans say from now on. Because whenever they tell us to not do something or avoid something, they're lying. They're lying, because when we're not using it, we have it in abundance, and then they can trick us into selling it to them. No more. We're not our ancestors' family. No more. This generation is done living under the thumb of the Europeans, living with their boot on our necks.
Own people are suffering in the meantime. It's just really sad, but it's good to see leaders taking it upon themselves to change this narrative and this situation that our people have been living in for a long time. So well done to Burkina Faso for finally building a nuclear power plant, which is not only going to benefit the Burkinabe people, but also people around that area. People, neighboring countries are also going to reap the benefit of this. But anyways, fam, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know down below. I'm
gonna let you know in my video, Sister Wongel. Thank you. There's a thumbs up for you. Royal family, that is the conversation. No raw material exports, Julius Malema to Africa. We must close borders for our mineral resources. If you haven't checked out that video, make sure you do. As well as others on the topic, if you want to go down that rabbit hole. President Ursula von der Leyen said this at the Africa Climate Summit. She said that we are not interested in just extraction, but partnership, which is a lie, obviously. And of course, the Bill Gates Green Energy Summit in Nairobi, Kenya, activists protest against energy colonialism, right? Energy imperialism. And we've been covering these topics plenty. And ultimately, for me, as a black-owned business, that's what matters. Because I have a plan to invest in my own mining industry. Because for me, it's on a personal note, as well as most South Africans come from a village that has been exploited one way or another. So for us, the story is always the same. Young Burkina Faso leader Ibrahim Traore intimidates the West. All about our resources. Have no fear for atomic energy. France desperate to hold on to Niger and its uranium. We've been covering these topics, family. If you want to go down that rabbit hole, make sure you do. Check out the page, check out the channel. Let me know what you think of the video in the comments below. Any further attempts on our mineral resources must be considered, and is considered by this generation, an act of war, because you are condemning us to more poverty, more war, more death, more suffering, and we've had enough of that. Our blessings are for our people, and we will manipulate them to sustain our people and develop our people. The West is not going to like it, and they will raise hell to keep us from rising. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I appreciate you for watching, Royal Family. Stay royal, stay dangerous. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.